And now, 6 News proudly presents Veterans Voices.
Hello and welcome to Veterans Voices, and we're going to spend the next half hour telling stories about the challenges veterans face and what the community is doing to support those who served. And our first story tackles both. Rachel Ramsey shows us what we're doing to make sure that members of the military who survive a conflict don't come home just to die by their own hand.
In 2022, over 6,000 veterans died by suicide in the U.S. During the conference organized by the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, I talked with veterans about their personal experiences with mental health and suicide.
August 7th, 1999, I decided life wasn't worth living no more, and that's when my first attempt occurred.
Veteran Douglas Brinker recalls his mental health after serving, attempting suicide twice. He joined the military hoping to find his tribe, but rather he found bullies.
It compounded more and more, where to the fact that I kind of lost really a reason, so to speak.
Recent studies show suicide rates for veterans are over 50% higher than non-veterans.
We do a great job in America taking care of our health from the neck down, but we don't do such a great job from the neck up, and that's where we need to change.
At the Hanna Community Center, mental health and the stigma surrounding it was discussed. That's why Brinker offers support to veterans going through the same. He reminds veterans that there are many resources available to help.
It's okay not to be okay, but it's important for all of us to know that there is hope, helping one person every day, and that you do matter always.
During the conference, health officials heavily stressed that if you feel someone is thinking of suicide, have the conversation. Break the stigma and do not hold back.
We say talk saves lives, and it's statistically shown that that's true. If you say, hey, are you thinking about suicide, believe it or not, it's opening that door to that individual that may be contemplating it. That little voice in the head might be like, oh, this guy gets me. Yeah, I can talk about it a little bit, and that's where you make that connection.
And whether you're a veteran or not, if you're considering suicide, help is just a phone call away. Just dial 3 digits, 988, and you'll have someone to talk to who can find resources to help you carry on.
And of course, preventing veteran suicides is one of the top priorities of the veterans agencies who are tasked with caring for those who served our country. And earlier this year, leaders with the Michigan National Guard, the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency, the Lieutenant Governor, and others joined forces to talk about what the state can do to fight this problem. They say it starts with getting vets more resources and benefits, and the state allocated more funding for veterans in the latest budget, including $2 million to tackle the problem of suicide. It also includes money for more service dogs and help finding a job, and Lieutenant Governor Garland Gilchrist calls it all money well spent.
They are theirs already, and if they can take more advantage and be better connected to them, as you heard, they are less likely to feel alone and therefore have those thoughts of suicidal ideation.
And speaking of jobs, the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency is making it easier for vets to become state employees. Veterans with at least 2 years of active federal service in any branch will not need a bachelor's degree to apply for certain jobs. This is for people who have a rank of E6 or higher. The state says that experience is enough to waive the education requirements for jobs in human resources and all types of analysis. And also, the construction industry needs skilled workers, while many veterans who are leaving active duty need civilian jobs. That's where the group Helmets to Hard Hats comes in. The national group helps connect and recruit veterans into construction trade jobs, and they were awarded a grant from the state of Michigan and held an event in Lansing to discuss the scope of that funding. Participants say Helmets to Hard Hats is an effective program for vets looking for jobs.
Started doing my research, and like they say, they keep pushing to be the #1 search, and literally when I searched veterans in local unions, H2H popped up immediately. So yeah, I ended up looking through the different job postings that were on there, and I felt that the electrical industry was going to be better fitting for me.
And if you're interested in Helmets to Hard Hats, you can find more information in the Scene on 6 section of our website at WLNS.com. And sometimes after serving in the military, especially in a war, it can be traumatic and trigger mental health issues. People who have served often find themselves suffering a new battle when they come home. So Luke Snyder is here for you now with one veteran's journey to find healing.
All of a sudden, it the atmosphere changed. It was just, it rocked us.
Jacob Scriba is an Army veteran from Lansing. In 2010, he went on a supply mission in downtown Baghdad when his truck hit an IED, a moment that would change everything.
Believe or think you're gonna die and truly believe it is a life-changing event.
The attack left him and several of his team injured. Scriba still feels the pain today.
I've also suffered from strokes, closed head injuries, burns.
But he says it was the stress of that day that left a mark unseen.
The feeling of helplessness, hopelessness.
Feelings that led him on a personal journey and one that started a new mission.
To find something that I love, something that I enjoyed, something that made me happy on a day-to-day basis.
He found that healing in an unexpected place, Legos.
I was given, you know, this opportunity to heal through Lego, through something I love.
So piece by piece, his work gave him his own peace, helping him rebuild his own life.
Like our lives, Lego is one brick or one step at a time. And that's very, very freeing and very therapeutic.
It's work that inspired him to start his own organization called Bullets to Bricks. Today, he gives out free Lego sets to veterans with the hope it can do to others what it did for him.
It's such a wonderful medium for me to get out there and show other veterans that there are other answers.
Scriba says too many times veterans feel alone.
That this is the best thing for the world if I'm not here. And if I can stop that with a Lego brick, I'm gonna throw as many Lego bricks out there as I possibly can.
A mission that he says is just getting started. Here for you in Lansing, Luke Snyder, 6 News.
And when we come back, we're getting a look at a different kind of construction project and show you how a community came together to help serve a man who served his nation. That's when Veteran Voices returns. There's lots of help for veterans in need out there, from the government to nonprofit groups, but it also comes from the community. So when a veteran in DeWitt needed help and fast, friends and neighbors were ready to serve a man who served his country. Kyle Macon shows us how.
We have no money to repair everything right now. It's hard.
Victor Smith is a veteran of the Vietnam War, serving with the 101st Airborne Division. He was in the process of remodeling his home to make it more accessible, gutting the house in the process. But with his age, things were going slowly, and a neighbor complained to the city.
I have 30 days that I have to move everything. At that time, I have no money coming to fix everything.
On top of money issues, Victor is also set to have surgery that could put him in a wheelchair. His daughter then took to Facebook looking for help, and the local VFW hall stepped up to the plate.
Granger donated the dumpster that's behind us. We had a group of 5 guys come in. It was an Army, Air Force, Marine. They had a 30-yard dumpster filled in about an hour and a half.
Ron says that DeWitt has been great to work with, giving the post his much-needed time to help the veteran. Home Depot then reached out to the post, giving them a grant that would pay for Victor's home to be remodeled.
He wouldn't have access to the restroom and going through to the kitchen and his bedroom area. So we would like to expand this bathroom into one of the bedrooms and make this wheelchair accessible.
Now with the grant and the help from the post, Victor will now be able to get around his home with no issues.
Thank you very much for everybody. Really appreciate it. With vets and Granger, all them guys, I really appreciate everything.
The VFW post is now looking for your help, as they need a licensed plumber and an electrician. So if you're interested, please email our station. Here for you in DeWitt, Kyle Macon, 6 News.
And it's not just neighbors. Some Michigan lawmakers are also doing what they can to support veterans. Senators Debbie Stabenow and Gary Peters and Congressman Dan Kildee have all sponsored bills to make sure veterans exposed to PFAS get help with any health problems those chemicals caused. Military bases use a lot of firefighting foam that has been shown to carry the chemical and contaminate the land. The Veterans Exposed to Toxic PFAS Act is still working its way through Congress. And we've spent a lot of time so far showing you how our community and our country have helped people who have served our nation. But coming up after the break, we'll have some touching stories about what we've done to honor those who gave their last full measure of devotion to our country. That's when Veterans Voices returns. The nation works hard to recognize and respect the remains of those who gave their lives for their country, and sometimes identifying those remains takes time, and laying someone to rest properly can take years. David Horek shows us how one ceremony in Michigan honored veterans whose remains went unclaimed for far too long.
This all began back in 2017. Dave Wellahan was working at the Jackson County VA at the time when someone from the county medical examiner's office asked him how many unclaimed veterans there were.
I have no idea. So I started the research and found out that we actually had 16 at that time.
Corporal, United States Marine Corps, Donald Mescal. PFC, U.S. Army, Dwayne Lewis. Private, U.S. Army, Joseph Evan. Specialist 5, U.S. Army, Richard Seabolt. Specialist 3, United States Army, Norman Grace.
Please accept this flag as a symbol of our appreciation.
Today, the names of 5 unclaimed veterans were read aloud as their remains were interred with full military honors. Before then, Wellahan said they were all stored in a Jackson area funeral home under unknown circumstances.
And at this point, it's really not important because they deserve to be here. So we started putting a program together. When I started talking to these folks, they all agreed with me that you've done your due diligence. We've tried everything that the law requires. Let's get it done.
The work that Dave and others do to bring an honor to these veterans means a whole lot.
While none of their families were around, military brethren and community members saluted the 5, showing a strong bond beyond next of kin.
Even though they may have not been claimed by a family or for whatever reasons, there's probably a myriad of reasons why that don't happen. They become our family.
Same for Wellahan, who added that this years-long task turned into a labor of love for those who served and were almost forgotten.
They were in the basement of a funeral home. They had no control. The funeral home people had no control. It was families, whether they had families or not. Whatever happened, whatever their circumstance was, they are now finally at rest. And you can see how large their family actually was by the turnout we had today.
Wellahan and his wife donated the flags back to Fort Custer National Cemetery, so if anyone finds out they're related to any of these soldiers, they're encouraged to give the cemetery a call. Here for you near Augusta, David Horek, 6 News.
And we have proof now that some sacrifices are never forgotten. And we're talking about how some people came together to honor 2 men who fought in the Civil War. And as you might imagine, the grave markers of those who fought in that war are more than a century old and were worn down by the weather. So the sons of Union veterans of the Civil War came together to create new grave markers for Jacob Croy and John Bolton. Both survived the Civil War. In fact, Bolton lived to the ripe old age of 98, and you can find the graves at the Gunnisonville Cemetery in DeWitt Township. And they're not the only Michigan veterans who were honored this year. William Finnegan was laid to rest in the National Memorial Cemetery of the Pacific in Honolulu, Hawaii in September. Finnegan was born in Bessemer, Michigan, which is in the UP by the Wisconsin border. He died in the attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, on board the USS Oklahoma. He had served for 24 years and was appointed ensign just 3 weeks before the attack. And one thing the stories we've just told you have in common is that they're all about men. But our next story is about a step Michigan took to honor the women who served. Back in June, on the 75th anniversary of the women being allowed to serve as equal members of the U.S. Armed Forces, Governor Whitmer signed legislation establishing June 12th as Women Veterans Recognition Day. It honors Michigan's estimated 44,000 living women veterans, as well as the thousands more who served before them. For the past 5 years, the legislature honored that day with a proclamation each year, but by signing a bill into law, Whitmer made the remembrance permanent. Nationwide, state officials say more than 10% of veterans are women, and they'll make up almost 20% of veterans by the year 2040. And this year isn't just the 75th anniversary of the Women's Armed Service Integration Act. It's also the 10th anniversary of the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency. So coming up next, we'll talk to the people who run the place and ask them about the past, the present, and their future plans. Stay tuned. Veterans Voices. We'll be right back. The Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency marked its first decade in existence this year. So Sherry Jones sat down with a couple of veterans who are running the department to talk about the work they do and their vision of the future, especially since the new director started less than 2 weeks ago.
Well, Director Brian Love and, of course, Deputy Director Robert Neer, thank you so much for joining us today. We have a big weekend coming up, and we're going to start with you because I know, Director, you're very new to this job. You've only been on for a couple of weeks now, but congratulations.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
And so, taking this role, what is your expectation? What do you hope to accomplish?
Really is to support our team. And so my mission is to support our team's mission in servicing Michigan vets across the state.
And what are they telling you? What are they saying?
You know, they tell me a lot of different things. Some have told me, you know, it's been a very hard transition from going from military to being a veteran. It's very common. Being a veteran myself, I can remember that. And I've been a veteran 30 years. And I can still remember the transition coming out of the military and becoming a veteran.
Well, we know that this year marks the 10th anniversary of the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency. And Deputy Director, I know that this is something that's been very important to you as well. And you've been with them now for a few years. So how do you see things changing? We just talked a little bit about change and maybe some of the things that our veterans are asking for.
So we're trying our hardest to make it a veteran-friendly community, veteran-friendly state. And over the years, we've just been super blessed to see all the different individuals really step out and create new programming that supports families in innovative and novel ways. And it's just been a blessing to see. We're trying extremely hard from every angle to get veterans to try and at least get exposure to what benefits they may be eligible for, which has been just phenomenal to see the response from veterans and their families. We're also targeting organizations out in the community by helping them become veteran connectors. And what that means is that those organizations are asking a few questions when people walk through their doors, specifically veterans, asking, have you ever served in the United States military? And if so, are you receiving benefits? And if not, their mission and their goal is to try to get them connected to their veteran benefits.
So why do you think so many veterans struggle to get support? Again, is it just because they don't want to seem, they've been told you got to be strong, and asking for help maybe looks a little weak? Is that what you think?
You know, it could be personal, it could be a family issue, it could be a drug dependency, it could be a mental health issue. It just really is not just one issue that defines it, but a myriad of issues. And that's why we really encourage people to call our 1-800 number, 1-800-MISH-VET, because we have some very talented people on those phones that can, if they can't solve that problem, they can immediately connect you to a service.
Well, congratulations again. Director Love, we appreciate you. Deputy Director Neer, thank you so much for your time. Happy Veterans Day. Thank you for your service and thank you for our freedoms.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sherry, thank you. And when we come back, we'll show you how the community is stepping up to help honor those who served and how you can help out this weekend as well. The run-up to Veterans Day is a busy time of year for the folks at the Michigan Military Heritage Museum in Jackson. And the folks who run the museum have a couple of new events and exhibits to get people through the door. The museum received 3 new pieces to add to their collection: a working World War II Jeep and 2 field artillery cannons donated by the U.S. Army. And while museum officials were busy trying to make space for their new exhibits, workers with Jackson's Home Depot were busy cleaning up the area in preparation for their Veterans Day movie screening.
To prepare the building, get everything cleaned up, do some touch-up painting and other just odd jobs.
And so we were looking for a fall project to help veterans, and so we reached out to them to see what we could help with. Cleaning inside, just helping them get ready for their movie night, making the place look good.
The film, The War to End All Wars, will be shown 3 times a day through November 19th. And if you want to get tickets, visit the museum's website. All proceeds go towards renovating the Military Heritage Museum as well as the Michigan Theater in Jackson. Well, thanks so much for tuning in to Veterans Voices. And if you were or are a member of the military, on behalf of WLNS TV, we'd like to thank you for your service.